Today's most important AI shift is not a bigger model or a flashy demo. It is a quieter change in where the work happens. Google says people can now securely link apps like Instacart, Canva, and YouTube Music directly to AI mode in search, with the rollout starting in the US this week. That is the confirmed fact. The interpretation is what makes it interesting. Search is starting to behave less like a box you type into, and more like a control surface for getting tasks done across apps. That sounds small, but it is a meaningful workflow change. For years, search has mostly been a starting point. You ask a question, you get links, and then you go somewhere else to act. Maybe you open a shopping app. Maybe you jump into a design tool. Maybe you copy ideas into a playlist app. The handoff between finding and doing has usually been manual. What Google is testing here is a tighter bridge. You search, and instead of stopping at information, the system can pass work into another app. In plain English, that means one prompt can lead to one action, and then to one connected app, without forcing you to rebuild the context every time. For creators and small businesses, that matters because a lot of time gets lost in those handoffs. A content idea starts in search. A shopping list gets assembled somewhere else. A quick design brief gets rebuilt in another tool. A music playlist for a shoot, or a campaign gets pieced together in a different app. Every transfer is a little chance to lose context, waste time, or make a mistake. This update suggests search may become the place where a task starts, gets shaped, and then moves on. Not a replacement for the tools you already use, but a layer that connects them. Let's make that concrete. Imagine you run a small cafe and want to plan a weekend promo. You search for a seasonal theme, a list of ingredients, and a simple visual style. In a connected workflow, search could help you move from that idea into a shopping list in Instacart, a quick flyer in Canva, and a playlist for the event in YouTube Music. The exact capabilities will depend on what is enabled, what permissions you give, and what is available in your account. Google says the rollout begins in the US and that the apps can be securely linked, but access is still limited and details may vary by user. That limitation matters. This is not a universal change for every user everywhere. It is a staged rollout, and the most useful features may be uneven at first. Some people will see it early, others will not. Some integrations may be smoother than others, and some tasks may still be better done the old way. So what actually changed here, beyond the feature list? The structure of the workflow changed. We are seeing more products move from AI as a helper inside one app to AI as a coordinator between apps. That is the larger trend this edition is pointing to across the board. Search is becoming one entry point. Other tools in today's lineup, like video creation, project management, and on-prem enterprise AI, show the same pattern. Tighter control points, clearer permissions, and more explicit handoffs. In this case, Google is saying you can connect apps directly to AI mode in search. The practical effect is that search becomes less about pointing you somewhere else and more about initiating an action in a system you already use. Who should care most? If you are a creator, this could reduce the friction between research and production. You might search for a topic, then jump into design or music choices without retyping the same brief. If you run a small business, it could help with planning, shopping, and simple campaign prep. Think of weekly tasks that involve several apps, but do not require a big team: preparing a product launch checklist, drafting a simple visual, collecting supplies, or building a quick content package. If you are an operations-minded person, this is also worth watching because it shows how permissions are becoming part of the product experience. The value is not just in AI output, it is in the permissioned handoff between systems. And that leads to the main caution. The more tightly connected the workflow is, the more important it is to check what is being passed where. A search tool that can reach into another app can save time, but it can also move the wrong thing faster if you are not careful. The risk is not mysterious. It is the usual one: misdirected context, overbroad permissions, an action taken too quickly, or a result that looks polished but is not actually correct for your needs. So the human review checks are straightforward. First, confirm what app connection you're granting and whether it is actually needed for the task. Second, check what the system is allowed to do. There is a big difference between suggesting a step and taking one. Third, review the output before you share, buy, publish, or schedule anything. Fourth, look for places where the AI may have filled in missing context instead of asking for it. That last point is important. A connected workflow can create a false sense of completion. Because the handoff is smooth, it is easy to assume the result is also correct. Sometimes it will be. Sometimes it will not. Here's a simple experiment you can try this week. Pick one recurring task that already takes place across 2 or 3 tools. A good example is turning a meeting note into a project ticket, and then a short follow-up asset, like a slide, a memo, or a short video update. Then prototype a 3-step stack. Step 1. Capture the raw note in the meeting tool you already use. Step 2. Move it into a structured task or ticket with the outcome, owner, and deadline clearly written. Step 3. Draft the follow-up asset in one creative or publishing app. The goal is not to automate everything. The goal is to see where the handoff saves time and where it introduces confusion. If the process gets faster but less clear, that is a warning. If it gets faster and still produces a usable, reviewable result, that is a win. That is the best way to think about this trend overall. Not as magic, not as a headline, as workflow design. There are also a few unknowns worth keeping in mind. Google has said the apps can be securely linked, but the exact behavior will depend on the integration, the user settings, and the product surfaces available in the rollout. We do not yet know how consistent the experience will be across different tasks, or how much control users will have over each handoff in practice. Those details matter, especially if you are using this for business operations. Still, the direction is clear. AI is increasingly being embedded where people already start work, and it is being wired to the tools that actually finish it. Search is one example. Video, project management, and enterprise workflows are following the same pattern. That makes the technology more useful, but it also makes governance and review more important. So the ClearForge verdict on this one is, use now, but with a test, first mindset. If you already spend time moving between search and other apps, this is worth trying. Start small. Test one workflow. Watch how permissions, context, and output quality behave. And if the handoff is not clearly saving time or improving clarity, skip the extra complexity for now. The big lesson is not that search is becoming smarter. It is that the boundary between search and action is getting thinner. For everyday users, that can feel like convenience. For teams, it can feel like a new operating layer. Either way, the useful question is the same. Where does the work start? Where does it move next? And who is checking the result before it goes live?